Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members from the Win with Dice team, and this week, a special guest. We're hopping back into part 2 of our interview with Ralf, talking about Fathomless Gears, a mech RPG that has mech pilots called Fishers, who use their gear to dive into water to search for creatures to battle and extract resources from, all while dealing with the terrors of the depths and the call of the deep. We get into talking more about the game this episode, so I want to get right to it. But before we hop into things, I have a couple of shoutouts I want to give. First off, if you haven't seen it yet, Ramon and I were on a Cyberpunk tabletop actual play that was posted on YouTube over on the Nowhere Productions channel. We were joined by Magical Girl Fab, and the game was run by Nihilus of Nowhere Productions. It was a fun start to an adventure, and if you're a fan of Cyberpunk or Cyberpunk 2077 or the Cyberpunk Edge Runners show, then you're definitely going to enjoy this and probably pick up on more than a few of the references. There will be a link to it below, so definitely go check out the 2 parts of this first session. In addition, I wanted to mention the Crit Awards, the Creator Recognition in Tabletop RPG Awards, a pretty long acronym. It's a community-voted award that focuses on inclusivity, diversity, and all the values of the tabletop community. There are a couple of specific finalists I wanted to mention. Of course, Kane is nominated for Best Multiplayer RPG. Kane by Tom Bloom, we've talked about it a bunch of times on the channel. As well, Best Upcoming Twitch Channel, Vault Companions received a nomination there. This is for Twitch channels that have been around for 2 years and under. So if you are voting in the Crit Awards, be sure to get those in before the end of the month, and definitely support Kane and Vault Companions. I mean, you don't have to, but I really like both of those things, so I want to make sure people know about it. There will also be a link to the Crit Awards page below. So that's it for now. Of course, since this is a part 2, we're going to skip the usual Win with Dice tip of the week, and we're going to hop right back into the episode. Again, links to both of those things, the Cyberpunk game and the Crit Awards, will be below, as well as a ton of other stuff. So if you are on YouTube, please check out all the things that we have linked below, especially the game Fathomless Gears, which we are getting right back into. We did talk about damage a little bit. I just want to touch on it like a smidge more, because it is sort of like, it is random where you receive damage, but because you are in a grid system of like rows and columns, you also get damage in a random column as well.
Correct, yeah.
Again, like I was messing with Gearwright, and I was trying to build something, and as I'm deciding like which points to unlock, and I'm looking at like, well, if I unlock this thing, like if I put something, you know, in the head here, because I want like more sensor range, I'm spending a lot of unlocks on that, but I'm not very likely to get hit there, as opposed to like the torso and stuff, where if I don't put a lot in there, then when I do get damaged, it's going to go through, first it's going to go through my equipment pretty quickly, and then it's going to start like actually damaging the mech itself.
Correct, yeah. If a section is destroyed and you get hit in that section again and there's no more space to mark, you take something called core integrity, right? And most gears take that 3 times before they give out. So in theory, if you're super unlucky, you just get hit 3 times or 4 times. All 4 times in the head, or no, 8% chance 4 times in a row. I haven't seen that yet, but and then you just keel over, but it's very unlikely. And then there's, of course, what you talked about. That problem can usually be solved by installing the mitigation internals, like armor or bulkheads, which are very useful because every point of armor basically is 2 points of health that needs to be chewed through, or a bulkhead that just stops damage from being assigned further once it is marked. So I've seen some sickening bulkhead hits on both sides, against fish and against players, where 8 or more damage just evaporated into nothingness because of one bulkheady boy.
Nice. That player is like, oh, thank God, I put that there.
Yeah, it's always such a hype moment, right? And it's man.
True, but like even that, you have to decide where you want to put it, because the damage, since it starts in a column and then goes down, like you don't know exactly where it'll be. Like I put a bulkhead like at the bottom spaces between 3 and 4. I'm like, as I'm thinking about it, it's like, I don't know. I was just kind of fitting it in there.
There's definitely some general rules for gear building that you are going to learn as you build your gear. But I will also say that I think that occurs pretty naturally, because at level 1, the way the encounter balancing guidelines are written, it really is the kiddie pool where things start out calm in Fathomless Gears on level 1, where you can't really... any gear will probably make it through a level 1 encounter. And then things ramp up until you have to slay God himself or something at the end, as is customary in many TTRPG.
Yes.
There is something to say about the artwork for the fish. It is nightmarish in the best way possible. It's like, I was like, oh, I didn't think that would freak me out so much, but I'm uncomfortable. And I was like looking at the grid pattern, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of jaws. I was like, how did you put so many jaws in there?
Yeah, the fish art is by Francesco Silva, who did work for a bunch of TTRPGs, but I worked with him on Enhanced Combat. He did the alt frame art in that book entirely. So yeah, Fathomless Gears is really just the culmination of my previous writing gigs. Like
nice.
the team I've pulled together, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But no, the fish in the game are absolutely horrific, all of them. And they reach from the humble gulper, which is just a guy with a maw, to the shambling Promethean, who has a human skeleton baked in somehow. And also that allows you to cast magic.
Yeah, that guy. I was like, yo, what the heck is that? I was like, oh, that's a fish? I was like, wow.
There is actually a section in like the downtime section of the book that talks about how, maybe some fish you don't want to really sell. Maybe just hand them to the church and they'll burn the carcass.
Some fish you don't want to sell. That's a good one.
They'll give you the equivalent money because you've rid the world of this abomination, but yeah.
I love the picture of the internal parts is just a little skeleton. You just stuck a little skeleton in the grid.
It's the ascended form that allows the shambler to cast spells, as long as it has one point of skeleton left.
Oh my god, that's so wild, dude. I love it. In I just want to hug it. It's so silly. It's so silly and also so graphic. Yes.
It's one of the cooler ones, yeah. Speaking of spells, I guess there's this eldritch sort of magic thing going on that I think is really cool in conjunction with mechs. It's not a big magic system. It's very small. It's a very light magic system. But the fishers, as they gradually lose their marbles, which is their sort of sanity stat, because you lose your marbles.
Yeah.
They gradually become closer and closer to this abominable force of the ocean called the deep that twists both fish and man in mind and body. And they can learn these basically spells called the deep words that are hard for humans to pronounce, but they have sort of varying effects. But they also perpetually, each time you voice one of them, you have a chance to lose more marbles, which then increases your chance to, learn more deep words as you speak them. Then, of course, there's also the Fathomless Curios, which I really like, which are just cursed mech items. They've got the wildest item descriptions. They're really out there. It's like a winch that has endless amounts of rope, and as you pull it in, your power to reel increases, but every time you reel the winch, you have a chance to lose marbles. But you get to reel it as much as you like. It's got rapid fire infinity. It's great.
And that. It's just that
that sort of stuff.
Got infinite rope. Here's my infinite rope.
It's the infinite rope winch. Yep.
Yeah, love it.
Just try not to think about it.
Yeah, don't think about it too much. It's fine. Everything is fine.
If you think about it, you'll lose it.
Yeah.
And I guess something I really want to point out though. There's a fun mechanic in that as you lose your sanity in the game, your marbles, and you gain backlash after each trip, you roll on a specific table called the Touch of the Deep. And the Touch of the Deep is only beneficial effects. So as you sort of grow more attuned to the horrors of the deep, you have chance of becoming more accurate with your attacks. You can pick up a deep word. You could actually have a flash of demented inspiration and unlock suddenly more hard points in your gear, that sort of stuff. So it's all roses and bunnies and sunflowers until it's not, because if you accrue too much backlash, you basically turn to one of the deep's creatures and wander into the ocean and lose the character. So it's sort of this tightrope you're walking, right, between accruing the backlash but not too much.
Yeah,
and that's been very enjoyable for the players.
That's super cool. I mean, that's always super. That was that when we spoke about what the heck, the other Tom Bloom game that we talk about.
Kane?
Yeah, Kane. I was like, why am I thinking about Chasm? That's his Discord. Yeah, Kane, right? So Kane and their sin marks mechanic, where it's like actually all the sin marks are kind of useful, but you have to like sin overflow, and there's always a risk of you just losing your character. And my God, have I ever just been like, yeah, let's push it. Like, I'm down. Like, let me see how close I can get. I almost made it out for a couple of games with one of my characters, where you know, just at the very last, very pivotal moment, I have survived like 3 of these things or whatever, right? Like, I got to the maximum amount of sin points you can get, and then I had like one more roll to make, and I was like, listen, I'm gonna do it. Like, like I believe in myself.
It's gotta happen.
I know, right? I was so hyped, and then I failed, and then I was like, but Jim was like, "Do you have any last words?" And I was like, "Yes, wipe away." I turned to my friends and say, "Wipe away the stain," and then I turned to a monster and I teleport away. I was like, "Yes, I live for those moments," so I'm glad that it's here.
There is actually something specifically in that direction where if you've picked up 3 different deep words, you can, as your 4th deep word, choose the final word, which you can only voice during the final fishing trip, which is the 10th. The game only goes to level 10, after which every fisher retires. But if you know the final word, you can't retire anymore. And it's like you become one with a deep, quote-unquote, good ending. It's like some players shoot for that one. And the final word is very, very powerful because it does a shitload of damage, but the flavor is you basically just talk the fish into putting themselves on the hook and being reeled up to your boat. So it's
I love that. I love the quote unquote good ending.
It's well, if you lose the character in Touch of the Deep, it's the turn to a fish bad ending. But if you take the final word, it's turn to a fish good ending.
Yeah. Gun for it every time. We'll always speak the final word, no matter what. Like this is the whole point, right?
Hell yeah! It's the only way.
No. Yeah, ascent to heaven through fish. Like that's
through fish.
I
don't know if ascend is the word.
Descend. We're going down.
Yeah, descend. Yes. No, that's super cool and super flavorful too. Because, like, I guess the other bit of this is all of the Lovecraftian spooky nonsense too, right? Like,
yeah, definitely.
I do like the storytelling possibilities of being like those guys who's like, I've seen some stuff, like, and they're like the lightning strikes in the tavern or whatever at the seaside, and there's like this old dude in the back is missing an eye, and he's like, but like I'm that guy. Like, I want to be that guy.
Yeah, you're playing that guy's backstory.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's like, you kids haven't seen nothing yet.
And at the end, you try to retire. After the 10th fishing trip, you basically roll one last time Touch of the Deep to see if you can retire. And that is offset by the amount of currency. It's called Novok in this system, or the setting that you've accrued over your fishing trip. Which Novok you get by selling the fish that you caught, of course, so selling the fish is important. So otherwise you can't retire at the end. And, we all want our characters to have a comfortable retirement. Or speak the final word and turn to a fish. One of the two.
Yeah, it's like the cycle, right? Like,
yeah.
you become what you hunt.
You gotta give back at the end, so the brace after you can fish for you.
You gotta give back at the end. Yes. Let me put my little skeleton man inside of me and become one of those.
There's actually I'm running a campaign of Fathomless Gears right now with some patrons, and we lost one of our fishers at level 7, but I think because they rolled too high on the Touch of the Deep table. But I think they might make a return during the 10th fishing trip as as a Leviathan maybe. But
nice.
We'll see. It's likely.
Yeah. Put that dude's little skeleton man in that grid.
Hell yeah.
Cool. This game is so cool. I think too, I don't know, I feel like I've been absorbed into a lot of mech games recently because of projects that I'm working on, and yeah, it feels super unique but still like in genre, I guess, but it's a part of the mech genre that I feel like a lot of people haven't experienced, at least for me. Like, you know, I'm a big weeb, so everything's always giant robots punching people all the time, but this feeling of like, I guess, like mystery and like fighting abominations, and like, I guess it would be like more Pacific Rimmy. I think that would be it. You know what I mean? Like it's very I've heard the term kaiju thrown around, but I don't know that these fish are like it's a traditional kaiju sort of thing. No, it's not like that. It's more like it's more like Moby Dick. Like you're just basically. I mean, there's a big asshole out there, and you're like, I'm gonna get it, or die trying, right? Like.
So the diesel punk mech fishing sort of aesthetic is definitely a niche that.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's the mixture of diesel punk and like the spookiness of the fish and the eldritch horror, and the fact that you're like, you know, I feel like it's the opposite way that mech genres tend to go. Is normally they go up like into space, but this goes down into the water, where that never happens, right? You never really experience like, or at least not too long anyway in most mech media, about being like in the ocean. But I would think that it's like also a spooky dark place that we can go, right?
Well, the ocean is definitely, I don't know, maybe scarier than space even, because space there's less creatures floating around wanting you dead. Like at least true. It's a lot more space in space, let's put it that way.
It's a lot more space in space. Yeah, it's a good one too. Put that on a shirt.
We're making a lot of shirts today. So yeah, we did touch on like playtesting briefly. So I was kind of curious about that, because I imagine you did a lot of playtesting within the server itself. Was there anything that stood out, like any mechanics that needed some significant changes, or anything in playtesting that you learned that you weren't maybe aware of before, or was it a complete surprise?
I mean, we playtested this thing I started writing the early rules in December 23, right? So playtesting literally went on for 1.5 years. The biggest changes were probably how fish are caught. So right now, once you deploy into an encounter, there are these things called catch zones. And what they represent is they are huge iron hooks that are dangling down from the ship on the surface, like from your ship on the surface. And your task as the reeler is to wrangle the fish onto these big iron hooks, and then the ship can pull them up, removing the catch zone with the fish. That was a change so it used to be that you could just catch fish anywhere at any time. But that made the game incredibly static, where fishers wouldn't leave their deployment zone because there was an incentive to. Then there was an iteration that you could only catch there's a zone inside the battlefield called the fish zone, which is outlined in blue, which is 12 by 12. The battlefields are always 20 by 20. And there's a 12 by 12 zone in the center called the fish zone. Then we tried it out that you can only catch fish inside there, but that still wasn't enough. So then I came up with this concept of these iron hooks dangling down, providing the fishers with incentives, one, to move around, and not to stand still, because the hooks, as I said, are removed after a fish is caught. That was a pretty big change at the time. Other than that, the Vectron gears actually had different abilities at the start. They had abilities focused on how specifically you build your mech. So the rhombus, for example, if you put all internals in it in a way that they didn't touch each other, you got a huge stat boost. That's still a really interesting concept I want to work with, but it ended up being that having a quarter of the initial gears have that ability was just weird for starting out. Maybe something I'd like to revisit in a potential expansion, depending. So yeah, I was just... And then, of course, there was a million balancing changes over the year, right? It's like every internal has a set amount of blocks, and then a weight, and then a AP cost, and an effect, and potentially damage. A little bit of a nightmare to balance all that.
That's a lot of levers for like one item.
It was,
right?
yeah. I was happy when Norgad was done with all the art, because then I could say, stop. We're no longer changing the blocks, okay? They're set in stone now. Everybody, we're done.
Yeah,
the only balancing changes we can make is weight and shit.
Yeah, because like I couldn't imagine like, okay, well, all right, this gun does more damage than this gun. They must be bigger. But I was like, oh man, if it's bigger, it's gonna cost more weight than this gun, because this one does less damage. And I was like, okay, we'll up the damage in that one, and then it just cascades from there. Where you're trying to find the right spot, right? Like, so
Gun 2 is basically the baseline, more or less, for everything. If we take out Gun 2, the entire system collapses. It's like the Jenga block at the bottom. Everything's built up on. So what AP basically gets you 3 damage. So that's a sort of rule of thumb. And then I desperately tried with the system to not end up in the pockets of big range attack. Range attack are just outclassing melee attacks. I think it ended up pretty balanced in this game, because you're unable to shoot people next to you unless your gun has a special rule called point blank. So like a pistol can do it, but a rifle can't. And also the range attacks tend to be heavier, deal less damage, and the specific optics you want for your range attacks that give you the far stat also tend to be heavier and are a little larger than the close ones. And I guess we completely neglected to talk about weight. Your gear can only weigh so much before you can no longer install internals. That's a different limiter set on gear construction. I think that came in pretty late as well.
Yeah, I did have to compete with that when I was doing this.
Yeah, for sure. There's internals called suspensions that increase your weight, and then you can also pick up Fisher developments that increase your weight. And of course, weight is super important because of the initiative system in the game, which is called ballast. It's a set initiative tracker, but it's not rolled for or anything. It goes by weight and speed. So the lighter you are as an actor, be it fish or fisher, the earlier in a round you go. Every full 5 weight that you weigh, you gain 1 ballast, and then it goes from ballast 1 to ballast 10. So if your fish, for example, weighs 10, they are ballast 2 and goes in the ballast 2 bracket. And then it's from light to heavy, and the heaviest fish go last. Sometimes there's heavy fishes down there too.
Were you cool. Specifically avoiding like a rolled initiative sort of thing, or like, I don't know what's the term, like popcorn initiative, where people choose which order to go in? Like, were you just going to like aiming for something simpler? Having
DM'd Lancer for 5 years with popcorn initiative, I wanted to avoid that because it's probably specifically me problem, because I have a lot of random groups, of course, right? Just due to the nature of how stuff works. So there's a lot of and ha, and do you want to go first? I could go first. You should go first. No, I want to go first. So I definitely wanted a system. I definitely wanted a system that is rigid, so everybody knows when they go. There's no debate. Mm-hmm. But I also wanted a system that sort of ties initiative to the construction aspect of the game, right? So there's stuff you can do to your mech in character creation, in gear construction, to influence your spot in the turn order. You can install gas pockets that make your mech lighter and thus make you go early in a round, for example. And it's another way those systems interact.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. I mean, I think too, just like I don't know how to explain. I've been talking to my wife about this a lot, about music, where there's a lot of texture. I don't know, for some reason I was like, this game has a lot of texture where like all the different pieces feel like on brand, and the decisions you're making in terms of building the mech, it like feels like, because it's a game, but it feels like, if you were piloting a robot in the deep sea ocean against giant fish monsters, you would consider these things, and these are a little bit more like, I don't know, like physics, I guess. It just makes sense, right? Like it has the cool texture. It has the, I forget what the sound effect you use, the squelch, right? It has the
squelchy.
Squelch, yeah, the squelchy feeling where it's like
it's all very squelchy.
yeah, it's the good stuff. Oh, that's super cool. I'm like, because you're right. I also dislike, oh, when you want to go, oh, let me go, oh no, go. But you're just like, I still want people to have like agency instead of it being like a random roll. But obviously, just like you put it towards the character creation, which I think is kind of cool. It also like leads to, I guess, if the players are cooperating, some cool like flow of like, okay, I want to be really heavy so I go last, or I want to be really light so I can like hook the fish early or something like that. You absolutely got it, because that is actually a relevant concern for some roles. The reeler, for example, the guy that smashes the fish on the hook to catch it eventually, that guy wants to go last compared to all other players, because that way the players can apply all the damage and debuffs to the fish that's about to be caught, right? And then the reeler goes and capitalizes. So yeah, that definitely, exactly what you said, plays into the thought process there.
Okay, so you're just moving that decision of who to go first to the character creation instead of like per round.
Basically, yeah. There's a way to adjust your ballast once you're in the game. You can either lower your ballast, so you can go up to 3 heavier just by saying, I want to lower my ballast. It's like delay turn, quote unquote. Or every AP on your turn that you don't spend is not lost, because that would be terrible. And people would be in agony about losing their AP. Instead, it's converted into extra evasion and quickened, which makes you go earlier in the turn order. So lower ballast up to 3. So I could just...
That is so good.
I could... Yeah, I know.
Oh my god. So, that like solves so much freaking problems with AP systems.
Yep. So if you sit on AP, if you bank it, you're harder to hit, and you go earlier next round.
Oh my god! Like, I think you just solved like all the problems everyone has ever had ever. Jesus Christ! Every time, because we play a lot of Pathfinder 2, right? So every time everyone's like, "Oh man, I have 1 action left. What do I do?" And it's like, "Fuck, that's it. That's it." Like,
just sit on it. Be harder to hit and go earlier. Yeah, easy.
Yeah. God, Paizo, if you're listening, what the hell, man? Like,
I don't know. Not enough people try intimidating. It could work.
That's true. You're right, Calvin. Like, Pathfinder 2 is intimidate the game. Like,
just throw another roll out there for the memes.
Yeah, no, actually, yeah. That game really is balanced around intimidate a little bit, which is like, I don't know, super funny because it makes like you're just like yelling at each other for like most of the game, and but on both sides too. Like, my God, like, anyway, it's cool in its own way. But Ralf, man, that actually, shit, I'm losing my mind right now because it's so brilliant.
Thank you. That's very kind.
So I did briefly also want to touch on, because we've been talking about it, or at least mentioned it multiple times, but I did want to touch on Gearwright, the app for Fathomless Gears, which people can find on the itch.io page. So I can see like the necessity of it, but how did the development of this go? Was it a volunteer thing, or did you have to find a developer, and like what was the process there?
So, as I said, when we started playtest at the start 2024, I took some, I presented the game to the community on Interpoint. Then we moved to a different Fathomless Gears dedicated Discord. I took some people over from there. At the start, we just had Excel sheets and people who made the Excel sheets. You can do it, but... it was pretty clear from the start that to get this game anywhere, we would need a dedicated app and somebody who knew Godot, the game engine, coded something. And I looked at it and I said to them, hey, do you want to just make the app for this game? I'll pay you money. And they did. And that went well for about a year. till they couldn't continue the development for personal reasons. So I just took what they had at that point to my number one programming friend, Marco Polo Dev, who helped me with the map creation tool for Lancer as well. And he finished up Gearwright and got it over the finish line, basically. So a bit of a hiccup there in the middle, but very, very happy with how it turned out at the end. I sadly don't know how to code. I just... I don't know. I can't do it.
I mean, fair enough.
But again, I'm very lucky that, through the community building, I have the connections, the networking, I guess, to know people that can aid me in these endeavors.
Yeah, because like you're talking about, having worked with this developer previously or having worked like a certain artist previously.
Yeah,
I think it's cool that all that's come together in this one project. I was kind of wondering though, like how would the app change? Because as you are developing the game is going to have to change. So how much did that sort of impact how the application worked, or was that sort of like, was it being developed when the game was a bit more solid?
It was a little bit of a nightmare. I won't lie. So whenever shapes for internals, that's also why we had to finalize shapes for internals relatively early in the game, just because it was annoying for everybody involved for me to come up to the dev and say, hello, these shapes need to change. Can you please swap them out in the Gearwright? Thank you. And yeah, so that changed a bunch at the start. Then we did Then it's of course easy to just change stats because it's just changing numbers or changing text on the stuff. But that got finalized. I thought it would be done like 2 days before release, and then one of the beta testers came into the group chat and dumped like so many errors in Gearwright. I was like, oh no, that's embarrassing. So we had to scramble to get that done like a day before release. But we're there. We ended up there. There's still a couple bugs that showed up that we're probably gonna iron out in the coming week or two. But yeah, for potential expansions and homebrew, though, I think the system's greatest failing is that homebrew is just really tough to do, right? Because you have to sort of get the blocks in the app, which is possible, but you sort of need a bit of know-how, and I don't know if that barrier to entry isn't too high. But for potential expansions, you would be able to just load them in and add stuff, so that's good.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, yeah, the working with the app would be kind of difficult because, you're not just using text, right? Like
yeah, exactly.
That's the hardest part.
Get the
is
shape.
The fact that get the shape. Yeah, you've made something super cool, and also just like you gotta work really hard to get your own thing in there with it. So
yeah, that's definitely, as I said, I think that's probably the greatest issue I have with the game. Let's put it that way. It's annoying that homebrew is hard to do.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from there. Like specifically for like your internals and the mech grids as well.
No, the mech grids are easy. You just assign where the dots should be. The internals are the other big issue, right? Because you have to bring your own shape if you wanted to slap it in. Yeah, your very own Tetris block.
Yeah, I know, right? Bring your own Tetris block. You'd probably have to the easiest way would just make all the Tetris blocks editable, so then you could just have the shape and then you could give it its own properties, right? But
for sure, there is probably at that stage is more of a budget issue, though, right?
yeah.
Gearwright was so it's a lot extra to have to budget in, right? When writing an indie TTRPG, to also have we gotta have the character builder app ready.
Right.
No real choice.
Because I was wondering if you would want to, because it works for like a character sheet, but I was wondering if you would want something, because there was a Foundry module for Fathomless Gears, but I was wondering if you'd want something that like rolls dice and does like the mechanics and everything as well. But Foundry seems to be taking care of like more of the gameplay stuff. Yeah,
Foundry, we were very lucky that a community member, she wanted to just have a thing for her portfolio in the sector of user interface. So she just rolled up and coded a whole Foundry module for the game. It's like, I'm incredibly lucky in that regard. And inside the Foundry, you also can upload. The devs then work together, and now you can upload your Fisher file directly to Foundry. You get the grid in Foundry. You can mark the damage in Foundry. It's insane. Super, super good.
I would say that the community that you have like literally forged by playing 7 games of Lancer a week for 5 years, right? Like I'm glad that it feels like it kind of came together to make this game super cool and super accessible for everybody else. Like it's like it feels like a good moment where you put so much effort into having fun with people online, and they kind of gave back to kind of make this game happen. Really, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've said it multiple times, so I think I'm incredibly lucky to have the community that I have just by doing you just do the thing you do.
Yeah, you pay in blood and dice, right, for 5 years, and then you come out with a book. Yeah, that's how you win with dice, folks. Oh, I did it finally after.
That's the name of the show.
That's the name of the show. You know how many episodes we've gone by and I've never been able to pull that off somehow? I just never think about it. I was like, oh man, with this podcast, and I'm just like, we never actually connect the thing, but here we go.
There you go.
We did it.
Roll credits.
Roll credits.
But I will also say, just as someone who only tested out the connection from Foundry to Gearwright, it does work very well. And the sheet in Foundry also looks very cool. And yeah, there'll also be a link to the Foundry module below if you're on YouTube. There's going to be a bunch of links down there.
I think it's just also on the edge, I think.
Oh, is it? Yeah, should.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a link from the itch to the Foundry.
We got space. It's YouTube. You can put a bunch of stuff down there.
Let's put all. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That our doobly-doo is extensive with links to everything that we like, and we keep adding more to it, right? Like, so it's like I think till the end of time, it'll just keep expanding, getting larger and larger. I guess maybe to our detriment. We should probably double check if all those links work, just as well as time passes.
Yeah, actually, yes.
That's a Calvin problem, not a Ramon problem.
That's a future Calvin problem.
Fair.
Okay, but Ralf, is there anything else you want to cover with the game? I don't know if we've gotten to every single thing, but I do want people to also just check it out for themselves.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, I think we got the majority of it out there. Basically, build a cool mech, don't turn into a fish. That's it.
Yeah, or hear me out. Build a cool mech, and then turn into the good ending fish.
True. Yeah, I agree.
Give back to the world. You've taken away so much of.
Or just retire comfortably.
It's boring.
Yeah.
Forget about that.
Awesome. Well, Ralf, thanks a ton for coming on the show and talking about this game.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Definitely.
Like, again, it's got really cool mechanics. It's got really cool vibes. So people should definitely check this out if they are interested in, like, this mix between, like, Lancer and Call of Cthulhu, basically. If you're interested in either of those games, I think you're going to find something you like here, or anything along those similar vibes. But that is going to do it for the episode this week. If you are on YouTube, please like, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff you already know how to do. If you are on Spotify or other platforms, please leave us a review or a comment, which Spotify can do. But reviews do help people find the podcast, or so I am told. As well, as mentioned, we do have a ton of links below to all the other awesome people we've had on the show and talked to and other games we've looked at. So check all of those out, as well as previous episodes. And since we were talking about mechs today, Ramon, if you want to say a bit about Mechanized Body, which you've been working on.
Yes. So, yeah, Mechanized Body is a cool mech sci-fi card game-based TTRPG. God, that's a long title. But you make your mech out of cool cards, or I guess you make your pilot out of cool cards, and you play it, and the whole thing is you're trying to unify all of humanity, I guess, and to stop all of the unwanted bloodshed through more bloodshed. It's pretty cool. But if you guys are interested, please join our Discord. We're looking for playtesters, and the game is... We're scheduling up for a cool update soon, so go check it out. Go read the book, play with some friends, join up for a game, and tell us how we can improve, or what you hate or what you like. We would love some feedback.
Yep. And all that will be linked below. Ralf, anything else you want to say before we head into the end of the episode?
No, I think it's all been said. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Check out Fathomless Gears.
All right. Well, for all of our GMs and players out there who are trying to avoid being pulled too far into the deep, just remember to keep on winning with dice, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.